any real or counterfeit, he is the right coach for the Memphis Grizzlies next year.
I don't think it matters. So I'd say counterfeit. He is the coach next year for the Grizzlies. I think that he will. I do not think that if you know the timeline of how things worked out with Tuomas Iisalo, the hiring of Tuomas Iisalo, the fact that that's very clearly a Zach Kleiman hire, that Zach flew to Europe, paid the whatever the exit fee is that they needed to pay to get him out of his contract, brought him over here. I genuinely like even the fact that even the timing of Taylor Jenkins firing tells me that it doesn't matter what happens in the playoffs of these last 9 games of the year. Tuomas Iisalo will be the guy next year. And so is he the right guy? I don't know, man. Like, I think it's all a crapshoot, right? Like, I think it's all, we just don't really know. Do I think that as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, I've listened more to the philosophies of Tuomas Iisalo and just kind of over the last couple of weeks, over the last week, and said, I like the things that he's saying. I like the direction that the way that his brain as a coach thinks about how to run a rotations and how to coach things. Like, I love the offensive strategy. I love the way that he does the things that he says that he's going to do. I am confident that he can do a good job. Is he the right guy? I don't know. It's tough. Like, it's a tough position he's in, but I think I think he is going to be the guy.
Yeah, I agree. So part of that is real. He is going to be the head coach next year, no matter what.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm going to lean a bit more counterfeit on is he the right guy, right? Because what we've seen is we've had, like, Taylor Jenkins, for all his flaws, is a good X's and O's coach. He's a good developmental coach. Those are 2 things he's known for, especially defensive schemes, right? So we've had an X's and O's guy. Right. What we need is an adult in the room type guy, because you can see it, especially this year. Like, if you hindsight's 2020, and if you truly look back over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, you can see the writing in the wall that Taylor is just like that fun uncle or the stepdad that lets you get away with whatever on a Friday night. You don't go to bed, you eat pizza late, you play video games all night, right? He lets like the kids who are running the classroom type situation.
Right.
I don't. And for me, what we need now is that adult in the room type figure. Do we need a Lionel Hollins? No. Do we need an Ime Udoka who's going to fight everybody? Probably not. But we need somebody that's going to step up and be that accountability guy to when John Morant's just not feeling it and sits out a couple nights. Because he played in a back-to-back since Taylor's been gone. And so that's all I'm going to say about that, as far as Gump would say. But, we need somebody that's going to look these dudes in the eyes and hold them accountable. Because, here's my level of care about whether or not the players like the coach. Here's my level of care if he can be accountable and get respect from the players. Right? I don't need another, bro who's out there doing Tyus's dance with Ja before the game. I need somebody that's going to call John Moran out and say, get off your butt and play basketball.
And we don't know. I agree with you. I think that is the relationship that Taylor had with the players. I would say what makes Tuomas Iisalo the right guy for the job is not his relationship with the players, but his relationship with the front office. I think that Taylor Jenkins and Zach Kleiman got crossways with each other. I think Zach Kleiman has a very clear, this is what I want to do and how I want to build this roster. And we saw that with the trade deadline. We saw that with putting all of his eggs in the Gigi Jackson, Jalen Wells, Zach Edey bucket, right? The Vince Williams bucket. Those are his guys moving forward. And it was clear to me that Taylor Jenkins did not buy into that and wasn't willing to do to kind of fall in line with what the general manager of the franchise wants to, how he wants to build out this roster. And I think that those are some of the reasons why I think Taylor Jenkins got fired. I don't think he got fired because of his relationship with the players or even the product on the court. I think he got fired because he was bucking what Zach Kleiman wanted to do. And I would say that I think Zach Kleiman, whether you like him or you don't, he is the final say-so with this organization. And so I think that the one main difference we're going to see is I think Tuomas Iisalo is clearly Zach Kleiman's guy. Yeah. And so I think that's the relationship that I think is more important than even the relationship with the players is what's that. Does that make sense?
It does, because it's very clear the writing's on the wall, right? ZK was the one that flew to Europe to get Iisalo, not Taylor. They drafted, for all of what we heard about them going after Donovan Clingan and guys like me, I was beating the drum for Khalil Ware. Like Zach Edey was the guy because of Isalo's offense needing a big center to set picks for a point guard, like your star point guard.
Right.
And so everything was setting up for that. And, he's been called petty, whatever. Maybe Taylor saw that. And again, like part of me does feel bad for the guy because he very much was a lame duck coach, right? Looking over his shoulder.
100%.
And he coached like a guy looking over his shoulder. He was afraid to make a decision. He was afraid to do things because he knew sitting to his immediate left on the bench is his replacement.
Yeah.
And that's probably why he went more with LaRoche's system. Like, all right, ZK, a big FU to you up there, buddy. I'm going to run the other guy's system.
100%.
That's exactly what that was.
GG Jackson, you're going to the G League. Zach Edey, you're out of the starting lineup.
Out of the rotation period.
Out of the rotation. Trip. Jay Huff is going to play,
John Conchar, Lamar Stevens getting big minutes. Because you cannot tell me that the other night, Jay Huff and Lamar Stevens would have played 30 minutes against the Warriors if Taylor Jenkins was still a head coach of this basketball team.
I'm just telling you, those are that to me were that last road trip with Zach Edey being relegated to the third big on the roster.
Yeah,
Jay Huff getting minutes, Lamar Stevens getting minutes. That to me was like Custer's last stand for Taylor Jenkins, where he was just like, if I'm going out, I'm going out in a blaze of glory, baby.
And brother, did he? And 1-4 on the road trip. You come back, you get belt to ass by the Thunder, and it's a wrap for Taylor Jenkins, bro. Man. Well, hey, listen, that's enough Taylor Jenkins talk. I wish, I think last thing I'll say about the coaching before I got one final real versus counterfeit, the last thing I'll say about that is I do think we'll be foolish if we don't at least do a coaching search, exhaustive, and make sure that T.I.'s the right guy. It feels like he is. Again, Stain's been championing this a lot. You talked about this. T.I. is going to be the guy, right? That's the writing on the wall. But I think we should at least entertain the Sam Cassells and Mike Browns and Frank Vogel, Damian Stoudemire, pull some guys in and see if somebody might be able to be that next. T.I. is probably going to be a head coach somewhere in the NBA next year, just like Taylor Jenkins. It feels like T.I. is going to be the guy in Memphis, but it'd be silly to not at least kick the tires.
I would wonder honestly if there's a level of we want to bring in these guys. We want to bring in some veteran assistant coaches for T.I.
You're gonna have to.
That's what I wonder if the coaching search is going to be. Do they waste time on a coaching search for a new head coach, or do they say we're going to go and spend big bucks on, like they did with JJ Redick in LA, give him the most badass, assistant coaching, guys on the bench as they can possibly give him.
Because you're going to need that, right? Because T.I. is a big X's and O's guy, but who's going to be, it feels like Anthony Carter's kind of been that guy for this staff, but who's going to be, is it AC again, but is it a new voice that's going to step up and be that adult, right? Like the guy that's like the disciplinarian that holds you accountable, that's what I wonder. Yells at Jerry when he fouls out against the Warriors with 4 minutes to go, man. That's the only time I've ever agreed with Draymond was after that game. But
which is shout out to Draymond. That was pretty dope what he said.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool.